Hurricanes are coming. Is it too late? Now, I want to reassure you at the time of this video, September 22nd, 2025, there's nothing really threatening the North American continent when it comes to hurricanes, from the Atlantic, at least in this particular instance. But I wanted to speak directly to you, the homeowner, that may have left a little abruptly or maybe without having done any preparation whatsoever to your home. And so my name is Bill Wright, and it's been my experience over providing thousands of home watch service calls to hundreds upon hundreds of homes in this area that there are at least a dozen things that you should do every season prior to leaving your winter home. This is going to be positive things that you can do, not things you shouldn't have done. We're not going to get into those kinds of things. But like for as an example, some people will cut the screens on their lanai, thinking that would prevent the wind from buckling their lanai. Um, Out of the hundreds upon hundreds of homes, I've only had one person have me do that, and he still had damage to his lanai. So it was just more expensive. The first thing that you should think about doing is when before you leave, and I'm not sure, some people do take their documents from their home with them, like maybe the deed, the insurance policy, things of that nature, the important documents. But if you don't take those important documents with you, you've got to put them in a fire safe that is also waterproof and maybe in a place where it would be higher than normal, maybe on an upper shelf somewhere. I actually have my fire safe in the attic of my garage. That way it's above um, any flood zone, if you will. Now, obviously, if the house is blown away, as heavy as it is, I think it's going to be in the yard. But in any event, if it does get blown away, then obviously it won't go very far, as heavy as they can be. I tell most people that an item that's 50 pounds to 75 pounds will probably just roll. It's not going to fly through the air unless it has a lot of body mass, like, for instance, a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So that's the first and foremost thing that you should do. The second thing that you should do for your home is to video record all of the contents, from anything that you have in cabinets on the lanai or in the garage, on shelves in the garage, cabinets inside the house, closets inside the house, any storage bins, anything that you have. Make it as itemized as possible. And the reason you want to do that is you will have then a record of what was in the house and where it was in the event you have a catastrophic damage to your home. This will help you in filing your insurance claim. The insurance company, take it from me, and I've had damage to my home, they really don't want to pay you. Good hands and good neighbors and all the little catchphrases they have, throw that out the window. When it comes to a hurricane, they want to deny, deny, deny. And so anything that you can have that will document what you had will be immortalized proof within the video to them, and they know then at that point it's going to be difficult for them to fight those items. So now on to number 3. Before you leave, you want to make sure that you have prepared exterior parts of your home to damage, and that would be like your gutters and your soffits and your downspouts, to make sure that they're all in good shape, they're clean, they're free of debris. Have a professional roofer come to your home and look at your roof tile or your shingles, if that's what you have, or metal roof, whatever it may be, and have them do whatever maintenance they suggest. Have it done. Make sure you get, if you do have that, make sure you get an itemized invoice or bill, and also somehow see if they can give you a warranty, a certification of types, meaning the roof is in good condition, it's probably got 15 more years on it, something of that nature, so that you can utilize that should you have roof damage with your insurance company. You can say, I had XYZ company in, they told me to do this, this, and this, and they did it. And they said that my roof should last another 15 years. It's all documentation for future use against or during a claim situation with your insurance company. Unless absolutely necessary, unplug every possible electronic device, from the garage door opener to any item in the house, with the only exception would be items like maybe your cable TV box, because if you unplug they provide updates on a weekly basis, and so if you come back and plug it in and it's been unplugged for 6 months, you're going to have 6 months of updates before you'll be able to use your cable. So remove items from the refrigerator and freezers and make sure that those are off, unplugged, doors open for the entire summer. The amount of food that you have to either throw away or give away will pale in comparison to the expense of a brand new refrigerator many times. And if for whatever reason we lose power during a hurricane for at least 3 days or 4 days, and then all of a sudden somebody comes into your home, even though it may be cooling and it may be freezing again, the smell that had from the decaying food over that period of time, it's just never going to come out of the refrigerator. It will never smell the same. So now let's just plan on having damage of some sort. And what I mean by that is buy some tarps and buy them pre-storm season when they're when they have an abundance of supply, because when a storm is coming, first thing to go off the shelf are the tarps and the 4x8 sheets of plywood and things of that nature. So you can buy a few of these items ahead and have it ready for the repair person who may not be able to get anything after the storm has hit. And so it's always better for you to be prepared and have those items. And if you don't use them, as long as you have some place to store them, they'll be there next year, the year after next, and so on. So it's not like you have to purchase it every year, but make sure you have an inventory of those. All of these items that I just mentioned to this point are things that could have been done prior to you're leaving. You can still have many of these things located and taken care of, like the important papers. Maybe we could, if you have a place to put them, maybe in at least a plastic sealable bag on a shelf somewhere, and have somebody do that for you. The video recording can be done by somebody like your home watch provider, or maybe a friend or a neighbor. Purchasing even the items we talked about could be done by a handyman that you may have, or maybe your home watch provider or a friend or relative that's in the area that could go get these items for you. So many of the things I've already mentioned you can do, but now we're going to walk into or get into the hurricane protection of your windows, doors, and openings. So there are a few different styles. Obviously, we have the roll crank down type, the mechanical electrical motor roll down type. You need, prior to hurricane coming, generally before you leave in the spring, you need to make sure that they are in good condition and that they can be brought down and locked, or at least secured in the way that the manufacturer expected them to be. And if not, get them repaired so that it's not something that you're thinking, well, if something happens, hurricanes, we'll get somebody out to fix it then. Because I'm telling you, pre-storm, nobody's thinking about you're broken anything. It's just not going to happen. And so that's important to do. Now, if you have the type of hurricane shutters that they're accordion and they fold together, you may want to have someone, if you don't do it, someone just make sure that they're mechanically free so that you can pull them together and lock them. And if you can't, get those fixed as well. The locking is very important. You can't just pull those tight and try to figure out how you're going to hold them together. If they don't lock, they won't hold, and you're going to have a problem. So you want to make sure that those are mechanically sound as well. Now, if you have the type of hurricane shutters that have to be manually put up over the windows, and normally that's studs sticking out of the walls, or maybe they have recessed bolts that you back off and then slide them on and then tighten them down. You need to make sure as a homeowner that every single one of those studs are in good condition and not painted, as well as also the bolts that go on the walls that you back out. A lot of times those get painted sometime, and you want to go through before a storm's coming to make sure that you can get all of those free, and make sure that they work properly in and out, and that you have all of your wing nuts if you have those types of shutters, and you have a multitude of them too. Buy extra. The reason being is that you can break those little tabs off and then they become useless. And again, storm is coming. First thing that goes off the shelf is anything hurricane related, and it's gone. It'll be gone by the time that most people think a hurricane is headed toward them. So you want to make sure you have those items and have abundance of them. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you have all of the shutters, if you're putting them up, all of them in good condition and in an order that makes sense clockwise around the house. So the first shutters in the garage should be the first window to the left of the garage or door, and just around the house. So they can take them as they are and place them just at every window, and it's easier and faster for them. And you should also have a map, and that map should indicate opening 1, opening 2, opening 3, and correlated tags on each of those shutters as well. You as the homeowner should make sure at least once or twice in a 5-year period that all of that's still in good shape, good working order, all of the pieces are there. By doing it once in a summer, or every other summer, or every third summer, to make sure it's all still there, you didn't lose it, didn't get kicked around, and so on and so forth. Just make sure by placing them out where they should be, counting up um, the the nuts and the whatever the items are, the way that they hang. Make sure you have one for everything that you need. If you don't want to do it, get a handyman and say, hey, look, put them up on every window. Make sure that they all work. You have everything you need, and then just put them back. Yes, it's going to be a few $100s, but that few $100s is well spent. You know that you know what you have and that everything's there and working condition. Talking about openings and windows, make sure that all of the windows lock as designed by the manufacturer. Make sure you don't have any chipped or cracked glass. Get that repaired. Even if you have window coverings, because you just don't know what damage might happen and what kind of stress will happen, and pretty soon you have a cracked or broken or glass inside the house that didn't have to be there. And once the glass has been breached, you have all sorts of weather, humidity, and just nasty stuff that comes inside. Now, make sure that you have somebody contracted to put your shutters up, close your shutters, or roll them down, or whatever the circumstance is. And don't forget that hurricane brace for the garage door if you have one. And make sure you have somebody in place contracted that's responsible. The only other question you have then is, how are they going to get to the garage, inside the garage, to get the shutters out? Sometimes you can have your home watch provider, if they're not the one putting the shutters up. You can have a home watch provider meet them there. You could give them the code to the garage keypad. You could have a lockbox for the service door to get them in that way. There's all sorts of things that you can do that will facilitate their access. And then once it's shuttered, somebody must be responsible for taking or making a video or taking photos of all of the openings to prove to your insurance company you did everything you could to protect the home. If you don't, and there's a loss, the insurance company has an out, and they can say you didn't do what a prudent person should do. And so those are all things that you have to keep in mind. The insurance company doesn't want to pay the claim, or they want to pay short the claim. In other words, they want to put some of the responsibility on you, and as a homeowner, you have to take and make sure that you're covering all of your bases. And this is just one more base covered. Now you should have departed with all of the items off the lanai and secured in the garage or some utility building around the property. That would be, all of your chairs and tables and anything that would be light enough for the wind to catch and blow around your lanai, through your screens, end up in your pool or in your neighbor's screens or your neighbor's pool. Don't think that your grill is heavy and that it's just fine. I've seen some of the biggest grills you've ever seen in your life, one of those mammoth ones, sides, and it's a gourmet grill in the bottom of the pool. And so all of those items need to be secured inside the garage, or like I said, some sort of storage building around the property. Signs, lawn decorations, hoses, um, as you can now you start running through your mind going like, yeah, I guess all of these things have to be put away. And they do. Anything that is 75 pounds or heavier and isn't a large sale, for instance, a large piece of 4 by 8, 3/4 inch uh, plywood is going to be heavy, but it's got such a width of, that can be caught by the air, it makes it a sale. So that's not an item I'm talking about. I'm talking about small planters that would weigh 55 to 75 pounds or more. They're low profile. The most that they'll do is maybe roll if the wind does get them moving. Um, and try to secure those into corners on the lanai or away from things so that the wind can't really get at it as easily as it might if it were out in the open alongside the home. And that's a good rule of thumb because you'd be amazed at the things that end up where they would be in the neighbor's yard, the neighbor's lanai, or damaging other parts of the community. It's a good idea to have a plan with your neighbors who live in the community full time, or maybe a family member or a friend nearby. And when I say nearby, I mean in the community or around the corner. And the reason you want to have that plan is just in case there is a storm. You will be able to get information hopefully from them if the communication systems like the cell phone towers and things haven't been damaged too much. In your area, you could call or text and they can say, hey, look, don't worry, Sam, don't worry, Alice. Our area wasn't impacted but much more than wind. Nobody has damage that we're aware of. I can see your home, or I've been to your home, I've walked the property, whatever the circumstance is. And they will give you that peace of mind. Because remember, if you have a good home watch service provider, that home watch service provider may have 50, 60, 100 homes. And they're going to work from sun up to sundown. But it isn't just that stop in and check it around and, oh, yeah, everything's fine. They're going to have to walk through the property um, with care, looking at every possible point of damage. So a service call, post-storm service call, takes far more time than 10 or 15, 20, 30 minutes. It's going to take an hour and 15 minutes per. And it's been my experience, especially if it's a larger home, or if there's been any damage, then that really slows things down as well. So keep that in mind. A neighbor or friend or relative in close proximity can really be a game changer for you. Now, the one thing I would say to you is don't ask them to do anything if there's been damage in the neighborhood other than what they can see from their home from safety. More people are injured and killed after a storm than from the storm itself. Keep in mind during this time, both for your neighbors and your home watch provider, that there are shortages of fuel, there are impassable roads, there are um, places that are flooded, places that a home watch provider, if they really know what they're doing, they're not going to drive their car down a road that's flooded just to get to your home. And it's really not something that I would suggest they even try. The water will go down eventually and they'll be able to get back to your home. They should always be concentrating on the easy access and the damaged areas that they know of so that they can get to as many homes as possible in a day's time. 20 houses a day is probably the limit for any single home watch provider doing a good job. So if they have 60 homes, that's a 3-day process. So be patient with them. If the one thing I always tell people, because sometimes communication can be spotty too, if you're not hearing from your home watch provider and you're sending out texts and you're dropping off emails, I mean, anything like that, give them a call, voicemail, and they're not responding, it may be because they can't respond. Their communications are down. You have to trust that they're going to get to your home as quickly as possible. After all, that's the reason you hired them. You trusted them to take on this responsibility. And it's, believe me, an important responsibility that they are well aware of, and they are out there and they're trying to do the best they can under difficult circumstances. Remember, not only are the roads dangerous and flooded and trees are down and power lines are down and people's homes are damaged, but that home watch provider may have left a home that's damaged. Their home might still be damaged. I know that after Hurricane Ian, my house was damaged for months after that. But I didn't do anything to my home. I was out trying to get to my customers' homes, and we had spotty communication. Some people thought I wasn't getting there. No, I was getting there, and I was trying to get the information out. It was just difficult because of the circumstances. And so keep that in mind that those people might be living without any power, without any water, certainly no air conditioning, limited fuel, limited um, fresh water, limited food source because the power and their refrigerators are shot now, and so they have a stress level beyond what you might have sitting comfortably back wherever you are, and so you have to cut them a break and just trust that they're out there doing it, and they will be. Um, I just don't know of a home watch provider that wouldn't be doing somebody else's house first before they did their own. The other thing that you need to make sure of is the fact that um, given the stress level, even when you do reach somebody, and as I always put it to people, someone has to be first, which means someone has to be last. And so if your provider has 60, 70 homes and you're calling them and you reach them the second day and they haven't been to your home, all you can do is be patient with them. They'll get to that home. They'll get to, unless you know that there's damage. And if you know there's damage, make sure you let them know that. They'll make a point to be there as soon as they can the next day. But you have to keep in mind that there's going to always be somebody first and always somebody's going to be last. And you may just be the last person. Normally what we do is we try to attack it from the area that we know was most damaged to the area that we feel may be least damaged. Now that doesn't mean that you couldn't have damage. You realize that, and we will get there as soon as we can, for sure. Now once you've had confirmation that you had damage, and your provider, your home watch providers may be moving on to the next house. Maybe they could seal up what they could, or maybe they couldn't. Don't rely upon them to be before you got in the game, so to speak. You're up there. You can make phone calls to contractors and roofers and people that do water remediation and mold remediation and so on and so forth. Start lining them up. And the reason you need to get on it right away is because if your provider has 10 homes that are damaged to this extent, it's going to be difficult for them to get on the phone and still get to the other homes. And they may be a day or two getting onto the phone to get something done. And all of the good providers are already gone. So as soon as you hear that you have damage, as soon as you are sure you have something to be done, get on it, get in the game. This all hands on deck kind of situation where anything that you can do to help mitigate the situation faster is going to be a very big help to the provider and certainly a very big help to you and your home. And as I mentioned before, circumstances can be pretty harsh and for your provider, your home watch provider, and dangerous. So don't hop a plane 10 hours after the storm to come down and expect when you get here that it's going to be as if it would be in the middle of winter. There's going to be shortages on fuel. There is going to be power outages, if not power restoration that takes a week or two. You may not have food. What about water? There are all sorts of things that you may not have a generator and power, and there's just so many things that you could deal with that you're not aware of. And once you get here, getting back out may be more difficult than getting in. So make sure that you speak with your home watch providers and let them tell you what they know. We have power to this point, or we have fuel on this part of town, or we have water if you need it over here if you do come down. Make sure that you're coordinating safely for your return to Florida, and then you're getting your hands dirty and getting the job, the house repaired and getting on that aspect of it. But don't just hop a plane because you think that it's like it would be in the winter when you're here. You're going to come into a harsh situation, high humidity, stormy weather. There's going to be lots of rain bands and rain afterwards. There's just going to be no supplies in stores, no water, no food, no. It's just going to be really tough. Um, and so, speaking to that aspect, when everything has sort of settled and things are getting somewhat back to normal and your home can be, somewhat repaired and maybe you can come down and sort of take the reins on that from your home watch provider. Um, I would say, just from my standpoint, um, just remember that those people that have been working so hard for you and others have been through a really traumatic time. They have maybe they evacuated, came back on really sketchy roads. Maybe their home is damaged. Maybe they don't have electricity. Maybe they don't have water. Maybe they are living on bread and water for the most part, very little food. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be going on in their lives. So um, be sure that you maybe give them a smile, a thank you, help if you can. Um, and what I mean by help, like, as an example, I'll give you a little story. We were running short on Ian, we were running short on fuel, and that was preventing me from getting out to the far reaches of my particular area. And one of my homeowners uh, did exactly what I just said you shouldn't do. He flew into Tampa, then he rented a car, bought a generator, bought fuel, and got to his home only to find out that his home wasn't affected. He had power, he had water, he had everything. And we happened to talk on the phone. He said, Bill, I know you're short on fuel. Come up here and get whatever fuel I have. If you need a generator, I have a generator, which we didn't need, we had, but it was nice to know that if somebody else needed it, it was there. And so I made it to his home, and then in my little car, my wife's little car, I had 10 5-gallon jugs for my neighbors and myself and everybody and we knew that there was fuel north of Venice quite a ways. And so I got up there, I got all of those filled and the car filled, and I drove back with this, um, well, how many pounds? I don't know how many pounds that would be of gasoline. I was literally a rolling bomb, but we had to do it. Desperate times, desperate measures. And so he chipped in just a little bit, and that little bit meant so much to my neighbors. It meant so much to the people that I was servicing. It meant so much to me because with that extra fuel, I can have air conditioning, at least in my camper, and we could survive just a little bit better. So remember, the people who are working have been doing this really went through a time, and maybe they're not even back from it. So a good thank you is always appreciated, and it can lift the spirit like you can't believe. The other thing is, I had one customer during Ian ask me, as he came down early too, and we were talking. He said, Bill, he said, is there anything that I can do or that we can do that makes your job easier? And I really appreciated just the thought. Now, there wasn't anything. We were at the end of that tragic period of time, but I really did appreciate the fact that he asked and that he thought enough of me to ask. And so, just food for thought, and hopefully, if any of this information has helped you, or if you know of anybody that it could help, please like and share this video with them. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. The more people that subscribe and like and maybe put a comment or two down, maybe give me some of your stories about the times that you had with a hurricane, or things that you wished you had done and didn't do until that second or third year after you've been here. Let's just talk about it. Anything that you can add could probably help someone else, which is what this channel is really all about, trying to get the word out to the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who come here who have little knowledge about what Florida's truly like, especially in the summertime. So until the next time, thank you for watching.